We're here again with Ty. We're going to talk to you about the pros and cons of certain legal software that we have a lot of experience with. We're going to talk about also why your firm is stuck, and we're going to give you several reasons to showcase where you can be better, because we've been there. We've helped grow firms. Ty's just launched his own firm and is doing fantastic. He's been the associate. He actually talk a little bit about your experience. Like, you started before you were even in law school or wanted to be a lawyer. You interned at a law firm. Tell us a little bit about your experience and how you've seen how technology, systems, and software can drastically change how a law firm operates and how it looks on the bottom line.
Certainly. I started working at a law firm in 2007. And at that time, I was playing college baseball, and I would go and work there in the summers. And in that firm, they did real estate transactions and also represented small municipalities, small cities. And while I was there, their practice was growing, and it represented more and more cities. And they did a little bit of litigation while I was there, so I got to see how to send out discovery, just roughly what the legal process looked at. It was a great experience, and I did that throughout my entire undergrad, all the summers there. Everything was good with it, and of course, at that point in time, in between 2007 and 10, there wasn't a whole lot of legal software out there. In fact, I don't remember using.
Let me interrupt you real quick. What I remember from your experience there was that you were basically shown the file room and said, organize it. Is that correct?
Yeah,
the law firm lacked organization, and they said, "Hey, you intern man, time to do it."
Yeah, do that, sweep the floor, make the coffee, all the stuff to run a firm that's not legal work. And I've learned a lot about organization. I'm not naturally an organized person, so I had to learn how to do that and create systems to where you could actually find the files quickly. And I was thankful for that experience, because it taught me both the benefits of organization, but way down the line, how to utilize that and actually how to get technology in the mix to benefit you, so you can scale and grow your business.
And when you were an associate in Charlotte, fast forward a couple of years, you entered a firm that did not have legal software. You were not running any legal software, correct?
We had, at the time, I think it was a program called Abacus or something like that, where you could enter your time, and it would,
Yeah.
right.
That
And
sounds like a great marketing name there.
Yeah. And it would, send out your invoices for you, and just kind of a basic processing software. And then we would use like a free app on, like a deadline app, where you had to go in and manually input, which, sounds crude, but that's kind of where the legal system is now, minus Firm Overwatch, because there's some great programs out there. We eventually went over to Clio, which was a game changer for us at the time. Just being able to send out the bills and keep up with what we were doing, but we still had to go in and manually input everything.
Well, Clio is fantastic on several levels. We're number one, we're very grateful that they've allowed us to build an extension and a connection with them, so that our software literally works hand in hand with theirs, and we do what they do not. The billing inside Clio is top notch, and things of that nature is. We're fans of Clio. What we built was something that would organize and automate everything that Clio basically didn't do. The only reason I even thought about building this software, or eventually did build this software, was because the existing software, Clio in my case, they didn't do what we needed it to do, or what you needed it to do. So I knew that there was opportunity there for you to practice better and more efficiently, and B, hopefully for the entire legal world. Reason number one, a lot of firms, they're running on still, memory and email. They're also running their cases and keeping their cases up to date using a spreadsheet, which was invented in the 1970s for accountants. So the program that you just talked about, running Abacus, I mean, you might as well be doing your advanced calculus on an Abacus, because that's the same. If you're using a spreadsheet to keep up with things, you're working way too hard, and you're allowing huge gaps that could cost you a ton of money in time and aggravation, but also it could bring in just tremendous amounts of stress, and you can miss something very easy if that spreadsheet doesn't get updated. What we did was we took that process and we had one button click. Anybody with any kind of understanding can hit one button and everything's updated and everybody's notified. So go ahead and talk a little bit about.
That's the amazing thing about Firm Overwatch, as far as the setup is concerned, because once you create your cases, you go on and you click a button on what stage you're in. So let's say you're in the summary judgment stage in your case. You just click where you are and it automatically sets out what is necessary, what you need to do in your case in order to be prepared for trial. The only deadlines you have to enter in there, let's say you're a brand new user, would be what's already set by the court, or if there's any discovery deadlines that are pending, you would obviously have to enter that in there. There's never going to be a technology that just it takes that off the table. But instead of typing in manually, even at the summary judgment stage, there's still 30 or 40 steps left to get ready for trial. You might have to type in 2 or 3 deadlines versus manually typing over time, 30 to 40 or maybe even close to
Yeah, you're
50
not having to request
different
from your
tasks.
team information. Like what we built allows you to not have to it allows your team to understand where they are at all times. It allows you to the senior lawyer on the case to log in and know where everybody is without having to go through and click anything, without having to go into a case details and see what notes they've left or anything like that. You see exactly where it is, and that allows you just a ton of freedom. From what I've been able to see with you guys and our other users, there's freedom there in how you organize your day, how you start your day.
Yeah, there's just so many things that you do over and over and over and over and over that from Overwatch just takes off the table as far as typing it out, who's next. And when you're working in a firm, a lot of these tasks would be the partner walking over to the associate's office saying, "Hey, where are
Right.
we on the Smith file?"
Yeah.
Okay, well, you need to do this, this, and this. And then walking back, feeling like you've accomplished something. And it's not guaranteed that the associate's going to remember all that or, do it in the order that you need them to do it, because what they have to do, what I had to do is sit down and say, okay, well, I got to do this, this, and this. And then I got to input that data somewhere. At the time I was putting it in Clio, and I'm also had a separate spreadsheet of all my cases and where they were, where the trial dates were to make sure nothing's sneaking up. And that took a lot of time. Once you get over 50 or 60 active matters, it is almost impossible to be able to have good hours that you actually put into your cases and to manage. And what a lot of people have done that have been successful in starting their firms, once they hit that point, they'll pull away from the practice in order to manage,
Right.
which they don't really like, because they got in this deal to be an attorney, to be in the courtroom and to help people out. And they're forced to take a back seat on the front that they like to be fighting in order to manage their firm. And
Yeah, and that kind of leads us to reason number two. It's the busy trap. You've got high activity and low leverage, and most attorneys, like you said, they're walking back and forth on a good day, thinking that they've done something by keeping their team going instead of doing what they do best while their team does what they're supposed to do. That's
mm,
what we've built. Talk a little bit about we covered Clio a little bit and what we really like about it, and talk a little bit about my case. I know you have some experience with my case as well.
yeah, MyCase is also a great program. It allows you to enter your time. There is tasking on there, but it's still a manual tasking. And look, these programs are designed to enter your time, easily send out invoices and get paid, which is wonderful. I mean, I was there the days before that existed, and there's a lot of stress involved in that. At the
You have to get
time,
paid.
yeah, you got to get paid. And once I became a partner at my previous firm, I got to kind of look back a few years and really hear a lot of the aggravation that I wasn't privy to initially. And there were some months the invoices just didn't go out, just
Why
because,
does that not happen? Because everybody wants to get paid. So why didn't the invoices go out? Why didn't the fee agreement get sent on time?
God, that fee agreements, that's a whole nother, we'll touch on that in a minute. But as far as the invoices, if a couple of the partners were in trial, especially at the end of the month, going into the first of the month, then there's no, real accountability on, hey, we got to get these invoices out. And a human being had to go in and send them out, but they're waiting on a decision from somebody who's thinking about trying a case or back to back cases. And that just every once in a while would get missed, or a lot of the times invoices will go out mid-month instead of the first of the month. And when that happens, you're giving your clients some wiggle room to get out, because There's one thing I've learned: no matter how good of a job you do and how little you can do it for, nobody really likes paying their attorney. Most people see it as a sunk cost, no matter what result they get. And it's wild to think that, especially with, getting some crazy results. Actually, the worst I've ever been burned was after winning a $370,000 judgment, and then the client didn't pay the trial bill, and it was a small fraction of that. Very small fraction, actually. We did that case very cheap, and the client just said, "I'm not paying that last bill." Didn't have excuses for it. Just didn't pay. So it's something that definitely you learn early on. That was my first jury trial, to make sure you're protected when you're going in there. Get some money up front to bill against. Obviously, you can't get the full amount, but to try to protect yourself before going in there. And if you don't get those invoices, going back to the invoice, if you don't get them out first of the month, then you're not chances of you getting paid by the next month are very, very slim. And now you got to wait a month. And for those out there that are partners, or owners of the firm, you're not sitting there collecting paychecks unless you're an S corp, in which case, you get some of it, but you've got to wait for that distribution because no money's coming in.
Well, law school really prepares you for that, right? So they prepare you for the fact that you're in court for 2 weeks and that you still have to manage a firm and you still have to do these things. Like there's classes, and you came out of law school really prepped to do that.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, you didn't.
Yeah, it does none of that. Even nor can it really. I've thought really hard about this. Unless law school completely changes its model, it can't really do that. My hope is, and I've talked with a lot of litigators about this, it should be, the first 2 years you got to learn the law. Like, it's just all in. You got to learn how to think like a lawyer. I think law school does an excellent job changing your brain how to think like a lawyer. It takes somebody that's pretty positive and turns them into somewhat of a pessimist on purpose, right? Because you're dealing with people's rights, and you have to be a lot like Doctor Strange in the Marvel movies, thinking of every single possible contingency. That comes at a price. That's why a lot of people go through depression in law school, because you really are changing your brain how to think about every possible negative consequence, which is good for what we do. You got to learn how to think like a lawyer. But that last year, you could spend just completely working on what you want to do as a lawyer, and I think you should do that. And that's kind of what I did practically. I put law school on the kind of back shelf, and I focused on what I wanted to do. And I have no regrets on doing that. My grades weren't as good the last year, but I tell you what, when I took the bar, both North Carolina and South Carolina, there were two questions, actually three total between the two bar exams, that I had seen in practice. And one of them I'd, messed up a little bit and had to go fix as a clerk. And it was just a great experience to just know exactly, like when those questions popped up on the bar, I knew exactly what to write, every possible contingency. It was great. So I wish law schools would go to that model, but it's kind of hard for them because, a lot of the professors are just there to teach the law and make money and get money from the government, from the student loans. So I don't see that model changing, but there's some law schools that do a really good job of that. I've seen, just from the associates that I've overseen in the past 3 years, I'd say UNC, University of North Carolina, does a pretty good job. Elon does an excellent job with their students, at least getting them as ready as they can for practice.
Right. And I think redefining that role, or that word or term or thinking mindset of what practice actually is, it's not just the implementation of the law, it's how you operate inside of an office, how you understand the system. When you graduate law school and you get your first job, you're thrown into a group of lawyers that either have no system and you have to learn on your own, or they have their own way of doing things and you have to kind of learn their way. And then you kind of pull out yours from inside of that as you learn. It kind of leads us to reason number 3. It's the nuance myth. A lot of people or lawyers will think that my work is too nuanced for systems, and they like the fact that it's in their head. They like the fact that there's too many things going on. What they haven't done is sit down and actually mapped it out. And when you are trying to scale a law firm, there's a different way to practice. One is going in and thinking that I'm the lawyer, I'm going to do it all. Here I am, here we are. let's go. And the other is, we're going to run this law firm like a business because it's supposed to make money. I love to practice law, and I'm going to build a team around me that supports that. And that's two completely different ways of thinking. Talk a little bit about how, so we talked about Clio in my case. What is some other software that I know you love Westlaw. Talk about how building your system and including Westlaw's AI automations, how it's improved how you practice, how you scale, and you've been running associates for a long time. You were basically, what was that in Suits? What was the guy's name that ran the associates?
Not Harvey, but
No,
Lewis.
Harvey's the big. Yeah,
Lewis.
you were Lewis for a good while in your previous firm, which you were partner, and you ran all the associates. So you have a
Hopefully
lot of
they don't have the same feeling towards me as Lewis. So
right. Well,
if
you
so,
ran
I
it differently.
apologize.
So we'll just talk about that. What it is to bring an associate into an existing system, how software works in that system, and how somebody who is thinking, no, what I do is just way too complicated or nuanced for a system, how they're probably 100% completely wrong.
Well, I'm going to break that up into two parts. I will get into the Westlaw platform. In fact, I yesterday did a training session with my team, brought them in there and showed them how I've been using it. And they're like, oh man, they've been using it, but I was showing them how to really prompt it and get the most
Did you
out of it, or at
record
least
it?
the most that I know how to do. No, I should
Come on,
have.
dude. Got to
Don't
record it.
shoot me.
You
We'll
got to
have more.
record it because when you scale, you will do that again.
You're right.
Takes like 4 seconds.
You're
Come
right.
on, man.
I'll learn. So before I get into that, let's talk about systems, because when I was at my last firm, I tried to bridge the other two partner systems as much as possible, because there was a lot of frustration in trying to keep up with different systems. So I didn't want the associates to have three different systems that they were working under, because a lot of litigation firms are like that. Each partner has their own way of doing it, which actually is perfectly fine with the program of Firm Overwatch, because the way it's set up, once you have your account, you can run your systems just like you want to, and your whole team knows what that is. In fact, you can have a new team member on there, and that new team member can see what your system is, and there's training videos on there that you install, and they can run with that. So you don't have to do what I did, which is try to bridge those two systems as much as possible. And that's going to allow your associates to be more streamlined and do what you want and need them to do.
Yeah, it also allows you to expand, and you bring in a new employee. They understand what's expected of them because they know when their roles up. It's a lot like, I'm going to relate it to baseball here, but it's your batting lineup. You know who's up, when they're up, who's up next, and exactly what you want them to do. Like, you don't have to send. The old way is walking into the dugout, telling the person batting, it's your turn, dude, kid, whatever, and then giving all the baseball signs and telling them what you want to do. What we've developed is all you got to do is before the game you set it, and the whole rest of the season, the next 20 years is taken
That's a
care
really
of.
good example. Yeah, it's just like playing baseball. In our example, having three different coaches with three different signals while you're playing a high stakes game. And what inevitably happens is someone will love one system and hate the other. It's just very rarely do you see people say, oh, I like all these systems. But if it's streamlined, they're not going to care. They only don't like it because they don't understand it. And if it's out in front of them, it's regimented, and they know what to do and when to do it, then everything will run a lot more seamlessly in that. If you're a young partner at a firm, you don't have to try to blend in with what other people are doing. I mean, you can take bits and pieces of that, but you can run your own path. And those are some of the really good adjustments that I've seen Firm Overwatch make over the past couple of months. Is you don't have to have just one way of doing things, even in your own practice. You can run cases completely in a different way. You could set up if you have a mixture of plaintiffs and defendants cases, you can have your own plaintiff path, which is very similar for both the plaintiff and the defendant, but you can run two completely separate paths, which, because of the automatic emails to the clients, that's helpful, because instead of kind of hedging your bets on they've filed a complaint or an answer, this is the next step, you can go in and type out exactly what the next step is so that everybody's on board. So that's the next thing that I'm going to be doing on Firm Overwatch, is really separating out the plaintiff and the defendant path, because it's going to allow the clients to be more informed about what's going on, what the next steps are. I was hesitant on that early on because it kind of blended the two. I know that's just how it was in the early beta stages, but now it's ready. It's there. So I'm excited to get that done.
Yeah, and the process in which you write those emails, again, you think through when does the client need to be notified, and it's actually included inside of your automations so that when the buttons click that this task is done, then it sends whatever email is attached to that task. So you never have to write that email again. What we've given you is freedom from having to notify your clients constantly where the case is as it moves along, because we all know that's one of the first things that gets axed as soon as, things get deep and buried. And, it's always just calm around a legal office. There's no stress and, nothing
Yeah,
going
no
100 miles an
chaos
hour
or
ever.
stress whatsoever.
Right.
Well, let me tell you about
Because,
this week and
okay.
and what the new things that I've implemented in Firm Overwatch have helped. This past week has been unbelievably stressful, not because we've waited on deadlines or anything, but things just popped up. Some emergency hearings popped up. Actually in another state that I practice in, and it required me being there, in person to counsel the client and figure out a lot of very complicated things that I've never done before. I had to do it quick because we couldn't get another attorney involved. So I had to leave and let my office work without me. And thank God, I had the staff in place and the technology in place that it could do that. So I was set to be in a hearing in North Carolina in person early this week, and I had to go over into South Carolina. And my associate was ready to go. That day, I told her in the morning, like, I have to go to South Carolina. You've got to take this hearing. You know about the case, but here's what we need to present to the judge. Had a quick meeting, had her run through it. She went to go to the hearing. She won, did a great job. Got a
Awesome.
good result on both fronts. But aside from that, because we were both running around, last minute preparing when we didn't think we would be doing that, we had other new cases that came in that are in between the demand letter and the litigation stage. And if I hadn't set on Firm Overwatch that new path of the demand letter that I created to notify, hey, it's time now to go and file a complaint, check with the client to see if they want to do that, I would have missed out on that work, because that's one thing that I probably missed more work on that one piece than anything else, which is when you're really busy or you're in trial. I mean, clients kind of understand that. They don't really know all that goes into that. And so they want to feel like, they're your main focus. And if you don't follow up and say, okay, they didn't respond to the demand letter, do you want to go to litigation? You want to file a complaint and get this started? That's all it takes is just that one email. And my paralegal got that notification, sent it right out to the client, and now we're ready to go. But there's no scenario where I would have caught that on the week that I just had, and that
Right.
technology helped bridge that gap. So that was a cool moment.
We built that eye in the sky so that it functions when you're not there. Like we want to take as much of the hassle of running the law firm out of your hands as much as you want to put into the system. Like the system will do even more. It operates at the level in which you ask it to, basically. So it's a great thing to hear that you experienced how it was there for you even when you were not. With Firm Overwatch, our goal is to create a digital replica of the inner workings of your brain right up into court. So pre-litigation, if you can type it out or say it, we can actually build an automation around it, or you can actually build an
Or
automation around it.
you can do it. Yeah, that's one thing
Yeah.
I've learned recently. I thought I had to run everything through you to build, which you did an excellent job doing. But that first video we did all in one take for somebody that's not very naturally technologically inclined, was able to just run through all the steps of an appeal. It's in my brain, but when I set it out on paper, as it were, or through the technology of Firm Overwatch, setting out the steps, I'm like, man, I forgot how many steps were in there, and it's a great feeling getting that off of your brain into a system. So you're not, when you're playing with your kids, you're coaching your daughter's basketball, you're not thinking, okay, what's next on this case? What's next? That is almost completely eliminated now, and I would hope in the next month with the new features, it's going to be gone completely.
Right.
I'm sure I'll
That's
have other
100% the
things
goal.
worry about, but that's not going to be on the list.
Right, and that's what you can automate. That we built the droid. You know, you're still Luke Skywalker. You still got to go fight Darth Vader, but the droid's going to pilot the ship for you. It's going to take you where you want to go. There's so much that lawyers focus on that they shouldn't or they don't have to because either they don't know that systems exist that can implement what's in their head. Well, until we built Firm Overwatch, that's why we're talking about the other law software that a lot of people use. They do things that are great. They do a lot of things that are fantastic, but what we built was what they didn't do. We're basically the Aflac of the legal software system because what we built was we wanted to take the information you had in your brain, how to do things, how to run your office, how to pre-litigation, how everything should run. And then we took it out of there so you don't have to think about it anymore. And we built a system through code that literally implements it for you. It tags the right people. It allows everybody to be on the same page all the time. And the larger you build that system out, the less, like you said, you have to think about it. And you can use that limited bandwidth that we call a brain for the important stuff, which that's what it should be used for. Cause that's the fun, even though you had a stressful week from what it sounds like, and you had a lot of things that you had to think through and do that you've never done before. You had to have some peace of mind knowing that your law firm was not just waiting on you to get back in to answer 100 different questions on how to do this or how to implement things the way that you want them implemented.
Or what to do next.
Right.
You know,
And like you said, that's
big
a big part of practicing, getting that coffee and showing up to the associates and saying, okay, where are we at on this? You don't ever have to do that. And if you watch law movies or law TV shows now, you even see that in the TV shows because it's so prevalent. Like I notice it now because of, what I've built. I notice it like that conversation didn't need to happen. How many times a day are you doing that? And you could be billing for that time. So it's kind of funny to see where that goes.
or
And that,
playing
that leads
golf.
us to reason or playing golf. Yeah, you could do that too. Like, you spend time with the kids, play golf or whatever you want to do, go on a vacation. But that kind of leads us to reason number 4, which is the invisible tax. You can't treat the ROI, the return on investment, like a cost problem. If your air conditioner is broken in July, you're not going to go, I think we need 7 quotes for this. Let's see how much it's going to, you're just going to pay to fix it because you can't operate inside of a building that's 200 degrees. So what we've built here, and all legal software costs money, and it should cost money because just like you guys cost money because what the service you provide matters. So the return on investment with Firm Overwatch is massive from what we know, but in showing it, I'm seeing a lot of firms, their first pushback is, it's just another bottom line thing. I got to think through and I got to make sure the partner's on board. We're spending a little more money here. The thing is, you're already spending the money. 100% you're already spending the money. You just don't know it. It's a hidden tax that you're paying every time you go into the associate's office and go, hey, where are we on this? Every email that you send out notifying a client that you've sent out 1,000,000 times before, it's just something you have to do. That's time that you can never have again. And think about over an entire legal career, how much time that actually is. We've taken all of that off your plate and it operates just as if you would have done it. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, because you have done it. You've set it out. You've sent that email at least thousands, probably tens of thousands of times if you've practiced over a decade, and especially 20 or 30 years. Just if you added it up, I mean, you're talking about years of time that were spent on things that you didn't have to do, or at least now you don't have to do it. Before you had to do it because nothing existed. That was just it was pulling weeds, right? You just had to tend to your garden. You had to do those aggravating things, to make sure everybody's on the same page. That was just how it was. As you grew, you had to do less of what you wanted to do, and there was no other way around it until now.
Yeah, it's not that way anymore. That's the secret of Firm Overwatch. Talk a little bit about how Westlaw has helped
Yes,
you out.
yeah, on the second part of what I was saying, how technology helps out. We've been using the Westlaw AI to help generate forms and also pinpoint research, and it's a great complement to Firm Overwatch because Firm Overwatch helps you know what tasks to do and when and who's doing it. And once that happens, you can, let's say you've never done something before. You've got the video that's uploaded on Firm Overwatch, kind of show you what to do and what it looks like when it's done. Dan Martell's, this is the definition of done. And they can take that if we don't have forms already, because we have a ton of forms in our firm for those specific things, but every case is a little different factually. You can say, for example, discovery requests. You can upload the pleadings, the complaint, answer, or counterclaim, or reply, and say draft a set of discovery requests from this plaintiff to this defendant, and it'll ask you a couple questions. What type of discovery do you want to do? Just interrogatories only, or interrogatories, request for production, request for admission, and it analyzes the pleadings, and it sets it out. It's an excellent tool for creativity. It will get a lot of things that you would not think about on the discovery drafting phase, but what it spits out, those are questions I would ask in a deposition, after being fully prepared on the facts, and it spits it out in, right at or less than 5 minutes. And you can take that and build on it. I mean, obviously you're not just going to run it through there and send it out. You got to review it. There's no way around that, but your team can get it and build off of it. And it's going to save the client a lot of time. And it's also going to allow you to send out the most complete set of discovery that you can, to make sure you're hitting all the bases. And it was excellent, showing them how to do that. And also with briefs, you can upload briefs and say, draft a reply brief to these briefs. And you can prompt it further if you want. And one thing that I really like is whatever it spits out, you can put back in to the AI and say, now find all the cases that hold this position. And then it spits out the cases, and then you take the cases, and you can spend your time actually preparing and reading the cases instead of searching for the cases. It's like,
instead of locating them.
right. It's a lot like, I'd say a gold mine, right? You're not searching for the gold.
It
It
is, you
does
just
it
have to
for
dig for
you.
it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you just, once you find it, you got to get it out of the ground, and you got to process it and purify it. And you can spend the majority of your time doing that. And I know in my own practice, and hearing a lot of other attorneys complain about their day, doing the searching and tasking, all the other things that you do in a firm that you either can't bill for or are not the most value to your client, it takes up a huge part of your day. And so now with the technology tools, you can get out there and really focus on what matters in the case.
So you've seen your law experience go from very little software to, I would say you're a very technologically advanced firm, and this allowed you to operate like a firm much bigger than you actually are. Talk a little bit about before you implemented the technology that you have now. This is a top 5 type video. We got 5 reasons we're going through today. Talk about it, like your top 5 problems that you had, and just kind of summarize how you now have tackled that.
Yeah, I mean, the number one problem was spending too much time figuring out where my cases were. The other top problem was spending time updating clients, where it could just be automated, keeping them involved and them knowing where they are in the case. Say another top problem was spending too much time generating forms that we didn't already have or were not specifically tailored to the case. That took a lot of time. And on that point, I'd say getting ready for depositions, especially if you had to get ready for, let's say you got, thousands of pages and you're on a very tight deadline. You do not have time to go and review everything, right? You can run that through the AI platform and pick out the pages that you need. If you need to do it really quick, and if it's like a third party witness or something like that, you can get what you need and then start preparing. That's been a huge issue. And also, I'd say ultimately, if we're talking about top 5 problems, getting ready for trial, having that system in place to where it's automatic, and then once you get to a certain point that you're ready to go, you've got all your subpoenas out, what witnesses you need for the trial, you got your documents ready, clients prepared, and getting ready for the final preparations. Those are the top 5 problems I've seen that have now been solved with technology.
All right, so let's talk about each of those top 5 problems and talk about which technology specifically that you're literally paying for to make your life scalable and livable. Okay. So the first thing was, where are your cases? That was your first thing that you said. So where your cases are at all times. What technology are you using?
Well, Firm Overwatch for that. In fact, the very first thing you created was the Your Cases tab. And while you were still creating all the other amazing functions, that was what I lived off of. Just knowing where my cases were automatically was the biggest. If I had to say what the biggest difference is in my mental health and in my practice, it was that function on Firm Overwatch. Because when you click that your cases, it lays them all out. It has the deadlines there. That was something that I would spend hours every day on an Excel spreadsheet, entering it in, trying to figure out where the cases were, who was on what. That above anything else has been the biggest difference. Everything else is very helpful, but as someone who's overseeing the cases, that's been the biggest.
What I've seen when lawyers move to Firm Overwatch, a lot of them are coming from a spreadsheet workflow. So you're basically, again, that was technology invented in the 70s for accountants. So it would be like going to a college calculus class with an actual abacus versus a TI-82 or something, akin to that nature. It's a literal tool built specifically for lawyers and for law firms to be up to date always and to know where everything is. And the automations inside of Firm Overwatch, that's what updates that list and that case list. So it takes the manual data entry completely out of that equation. So let's go to number 2. So keeping your clients updated. What software are you using for that?
Firm Overwatch. So as the case advances, whenever you click next step, let's say we've just answered the complaint. You're on the defendant side. When you can choose whether or not to notify them because they may already know that it's this time. But when it happens and you click next step, email automatically goes to the client. We've answered the complaint. The next step is to draft the preliminary jury instructions in order to draft the discovery request. So that'll go out to the client so they know, okay, these are the next steps and this has been done.
Yeah. And it also tells them what to expect, and you can expand that further. I don't know where you are in building all that out, but what's expected of them, I would start including that and what the next steps are and things of that nature so that you have literally they have all the information they need. And we also built the button. Some clients don't want to be notified at all. And because the system does it automatically, once you're inside of Firm Overwatch, you can just click a little tab, do not notify client, and it'll skip it. So
They
that's
just want to
something that
know you've got your case. They trust you, and there aren't many of them.
those are the really great ones. So,
Maybe 5 right now that are like that, but it's just against human nature, right? You just want to know. I wouldn't be one of those clients. I'd
no,
want to be
me either.
notified.
So I'd want to know every day what you were doing. Give me a layout
Those
of
people
exactly what you're.
are chimeric in nature. They don't really exist, but they're out there.
Yeah. Right. All right. So number 3 was too much time generating forms. What software?
A combination of Firm Overwatch and Westlaw. In Firm Overwatch, you can link documents in the tasks. So I use that. And if I need to fill in anything or if it's a kind of a unique case, I'll use the Westlaw AI. So it's a comment. It's almost 50-50 how I use it.
That's
I'd say
great.
my team probably uses it now 70% Firm Overwatch, 30% Westlaw AI, but I'm trying to get them to split that up more because it really
Okay.
is an amazing program.
But yeah, no, Westlaw's incredible. We love everybody at Westlaw. If we have any recommendations, it's always you need us and you need Westlaw. That's kind of where we're at. All right. So number 4 is getting ready for depositions. What technology are you using to assist your team in that?
Both Firm Overwatch and Westlaw. So I use Firm Overwatch and the process, what we need to do, how to get the documents organized. And I'd say it's probably 80% Firm Overwatch on that because it is such a regimented process. And if you're not notified, hey, this is what you need to do next, you're going to prioritize something different because it's probably the least glamorous part of practicing law. Just working with documents, making copies, putting them in boxes, getting them organized, put them in date order and all that. And so if you don't have automatic process in that, things are just going to get missed. And when the deposition rolls around, you're like, hey, where's this and this? And it's a headache.
When you're making copies, how much does that Saturday Night Live skit run through your head?
Sandra, making copies. Yeah,
Right.
every time. Every time. I can't get it out of my head.
That's good to know.
Yeah. When I need to get ready quick, I'll use the Westlaw AI because you can upload the production into there and say, find all the emails with this email or any mention of this. And that is really awesome because It used to be really, I'd say 2 years ago, you had to pay, I think we were paying per case. We could only use this technology for big cases. And it was $1,500 or $2,000 a month just for one case. Like you couldn't put anything else. You couldn't use other cases in there. Yeah, it was right at, I think on the low end 1,500, and depending on how much information you put in there, it could get up to $3,000 a month just to upload production of documents and to be able to analyze it. And now you can do that through your Westlaw account, which that's probably the biggest change that I've seen on that front, really breaking the cost down. And yeah, what you get from that with the AI is because they were using AI before, but those big companies, the document processing companies, kind of had a corner on the market, and they made a lot of money over the years having that. But now it's available to the law firms just in general. I wish more people knew that.
I'm looking forward to how you answer this next. The last on your list, you said getting ready for trial was something that you've A, experienced without technology, and B, are using technology a lot in. So tell me which groups of technology and how you're using it.
I would put Clio in the mix, Clio in my case in the mix in that as well. That's a small part of it. I'd say 90 to 95% of it is firm Overwatch with the regimented steps and the checklist. This is what we need to do, and this is what we have to have checked off by this point. So that way we're not scrambling last minute, because it's not the only case we have, but trial is very important. It's the ultimate dance. So you gotta get ready for that. And then I'd say 5 to 10% Westlaw on getting the cases ready. And it used to be kind of not an oversight, but something that you did towards the end. Hey, let's find cases on directed verdict, right? If we felt like we had a good chance at directed verdict, let's get our cases ready for that. But that's something that you can get way in advance now on Westlaw. And also I use it for evidence as well. If there's a piece of evidence that I either want to keep out for whatever reason, or I really need to get this piece of evidence in, and I can't get the witnesses in another state, and client doesn't want to pay to have that deposition taken, then I can actually do the research, and it does it very, very quickly. And it allows me to actually focus on the case instead of digging for cases. And now with an associate, instead of the associate being focused on just finding the cases, they can find them pretty quick, and they can spend time actually, like my previous example, refining the gold. They can take that and spend real time, a real benefit of the client, examining the cases and breaking them down and selecting the right ones for me to use in trial.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak to this just real quick. This is the reason Firm Overwatch exists, because of things like this. So before you had technology that was assisting you for trial preparation, what you had was a list on top of a box, correct? A checklist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we did was we took, okay, you're using a
And
spreadsheet
that,
to,
I will say something to that. That was actually pretty advanced, and most, I'd say
that's terrifying.
probably 98% of those I've gone up against didn't have, it appeared that they didn't have any type of system, especially for documents. So even having a system puts you ahead, but being able to take that and automate it, that's the next level. That's where we are now.
Right. But in how Firm Overwatch was designed and built and coded was that this is how you're doing it. I'm going to take the fact that you're using a checklist on top of your case box, and we're going to put it inside of your case details page. And all of the steps that you use and everything that you need for trial, it'll be a checklist, and it'll be always visible to your entire team always. So they don't have to walk over to the box to put something into and then check it off. They can actually do the work and then check it off. Firm Overwatch actually gives you a progress meter of how much you've done and how close you are to the end of your preparation. So you can use that for a lot of different ways, but it gives you peace of mind to know that A, it's being worked on, where it's at constantly, and how much you have left to do in your setup. And that's, again, just like everything in Firm Overwatch, completely tailorable to your system so that you can change it. If you see that you need to add something here or there, you can change it, you can add to it. So it can be as long or as short as you want it to be, but everybody knows where it is at all times. They don't have to get up and go actually look at the box to understand that. So we took you from spreadsheets to an automatically updated way of understanding where your cases are. And in the trial preparation, we took you from a sheet taped to the top of a box to automated, easily understandable by your whole team, clickable to where you can do and account for any of your case steps or your trial preparation steps inside of each trial.
Another function that's very helpful is that you can archive your case. Let's say you get done with it, you can archive it. It'll show you everything you've done in that case, and that is a very helpful record, especially if you end up getting a client that's not happy with what's happened for whatever reason, and you've got that record there, and you know that you went through all these steps, and just having those steps already puts you up above the malpractice bar by showing you've done all these things. It just allows you to have that in your back pocket if you ever need to be able to use that and show this is what we did.
Yeah, and when you archive a case, or we also allow our users at any time to download your information, and I recommend you doing that at least once a week just to have a hard copy backup just in case, the whole internet went down 2 or 3 months ago. Except we didn't because we were on different servers than AWS, but everybody associated with AWS, billion-dollar companies, they couldn't access any of their information. So we always recommend you downloading that at least once a week. But when you download it and when you archive it, all the tasks that you accomplished and you linked to that case, it's all in that file together. So once you archive a case, or you can even download your archive to have a hard copy that you can store locally on your server or your computer. And when that happens, you can always go back to, okay, this was done by this person at this time. We've heard these horror stories a lot of times when we talk, even some of the really good software that you've talked about, when people have to move off that software, they move from one firm to the other, they cannot take their data with them, and it makes them mad. So we give you the opportunity to at least have a hard copy that you can move it. If you find another software you like, you can take your data from Firm Overwatch with you. We're not going to handcuff you at all. That's something that most other software companies don't do because it makes leaving them too easy. But we want it. We're 100% law firm first. We want to take care of our clients as much as possible. And that leads us really to reason number 5. You don't scale or you don't have systems in place because you're a prisoner of moderate success. You built a law firm, you're making some money, but you're too busy to actually enjoy the wealth you've created. That's really not, you're not a business owner then. You still got a fancy job, even though you're working for yourself. So we want
That's
all of our lawyers.
A lot of good
That's
lawyers
most
too.
of them. Right. Yeah. Talk about that a minute.
Yeah, I was speaking to somebody that I respected and still respect greatly. He's an excellent litigator in our area, and he heard I was starting my own firm, and I was asking him for advice. And he said, well, you kind of have 2 choices. One, keep doing what you love to do, and you're just going to have to limit what you take in and be okay with that. Or you spend time and a lot of effort in to other people and try to scale your business. And I thought that was really good advice. And also seeing his career, it appeared that he chose the first one, right? To just have that, and he's very successful. He's a very good lawyer. And that's you can have that life. If that's what you want, that's fine. But if you want to scale, it's going to come at a price, and you've got to train people up, and you've got to have the technology in place. And I could just about promise you, if he had this technology available to him, he would have taken a different path. It was just too much. And I would take that same path too if this technology didn't exist. It's too much. It's too much brain damage to try to scale, because at that point you have to stop doing what you love to do. You've got to get out of the courtroom for the most part. And that's just something that a lot of attorneys are not willing to do. And now they don't have to make that choice anymore. You can have both.
100%. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate your time. And again, if we can build anything else out for you, let us know. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate the in-depth views that you have on what we've created here. Keep it up. And I know you had a rough week last week, but I'm glad we could, in some small way, at least help you survive that and take some of that off your plate. So that's our goal. And we hope to do that for as many people as possible. So keep doing the good work. Keep it up.
All right. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Good job.
All right. See ya.